Jaz bi vas pozdravil na drugem dnevu FAKongresa, študentskega festivala na Fakulteti za arhitekturo. Danes bomo začeli najprej s predavanjem Viktorja Meestersa iz studia Rotor iz Brusla. And now I will switch to English. So also you, Viktor, welcome to the second day of FAK here at the Faculty of Architecture in Ljubljana. And we will start with your lecture, and then you will join us at the roundtable discussion.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. So, yeah, it's FAKongres.
Yeah.
Okay. And to move, it's okay. Thank you for the invitation. So I'm Victor. I'm an architect based in Brussels, and I'm working between Brussels and Paris for Rotor. So I guess for everybody of you, nobody knows who are Rotor, but I will try to introduce you a bit what we are doing. And like people don't really know what we are doing because it's kind of multi-level game or jobs. So I will try in this presentation to show you all the action at these levels that we are doing. So this is an old picture, but now we are about 20 people. But we are formed in 2005, and we are a group of people who share a common interest for the flow of materials in the construction and industry. And here you can see some numbers, and we have many skills, different skills on our team. Like Lionel is a bioengineer, Renaud is an architect. And the other one is like self-educated, but his parents are lawyers, so he knows a bit about laws. And there is an historian of architecture, scenograph and architect. So our work is about the materiality in the construction. And because of this interest, like we develop like methodology and on the field of reusing material. So yeah, this is what we are doing in Rotor. And yeah, I was talking about the reusing material. The thing is, reuse material is quite a new thing nowadays on the construction, and it's a topic to develop and we need to innovate. So it's why we have so many different skills on the team, and it's why also we have this multi-level work. And this page can show you the action we need to develop this practice. And the focus is to professional the practice of reuse in the construction. So we are doing research, and we have a research team. We're doing exhibition and publication to talk about this topic and with the public. We have a design team, and to understand well and better the issue or the problematic of reuse for the designers. And we have also like in 2014, spin-off of Rotor, which is Rotor Deconstruction. It's a company specialized on the extraction and dismantling elements of architecture. So, as you can see, we need to work on these levels to make reuse working as a professional level. But before talking about our project, I just wanted to talk to you about why we are not doing some why we don't reuse material on the construction nowadays, and what happened. Because reusing materials on the history of architecture is always be like things that happen, and it's only the few decades that it disappeared because of many reasons, and now we are like discovering again this practice of reusing, and I'm going to show you some key to understand why sorry, it's written in French, but it's a bit flashback on the evolution of the market of the reuse. This is an announcement, a public announcement in Brussels, and it says so it's in 1778, and it says we will sell publicly next Thursday in the city of Brussels a huge quantity of doors, frame, shutter, stairs, woods and stuff. And like 200 years ago it was like that. When you demount or deconstruct a building, there was like resellers for the materials. Here is the Blue Tower in Brussels, and we find on the archive in 1879 a sale for demolition, and the city mayor say they're going to be a sale for the material of the elements of this tower, and also in the public it's a public announcement. And then we are here in Paris in 1884, and it's Achille Picard was the biggest company for reusing material, and like the fronton, the pediment here is come from the Palais du Louvre, because it was a few years after the Commune de Paris. It's like kind of second French Revolution, and it was the biggest one to absorb the material from this kind of huge building sites. And during the Commune of the Paris, the Parisians burned the Palais du Louvre because there was striking against the restoration of the monarchy. So in 1884 in Paris, it was like there was this kind of company who was able to stock and resell materials. And then this famous postmodernism pictures about the destruction of the housing in Saint-Louis. And the thing we want to know in Rotor, it's what happened during the time of Achille Picard and in Brussels, where we were selling materials, and this moment where we are like destroying building with dynamites and other tools. And here it's like more recently in USA, it's destruction of I don't know what kind of building is it, but like Loiseau tell about this destruction, that it's kind of a religious act to cure the planet and stuff. And so there is a scenography of the deconstruction, of the demolition of the buildings, and nowadays we are here. So what happened in the past? The evolution of tools. So at the time of Achille Picard, they were using this kind of tools to deconstruct a building. So with the evolution of tools, like pneumatic tools and the crane, or like bulldozer, it changed like the way to deconstruct a building. And this picture is like a soldier in USA, and like during the Second World War, a lot of soldiers learned how to use this machine, and when they came back in their country, they opened like a demolition company, and because they were using these tools. And because of the war, it accelerated also the development of these tools and this technology. The cost of the workforce, of course, And at this time, we needed a lot of people to demount the building, but now the materials is cheaper than the workforce. And so we need to be faster, and we need new tools. So this, the productivity is also something who accelerates the time for demolition of a building, and some landlord can pay to accelerate this deconstruction, the demolition on site. So the small company who are doing some deconstruction didn't have the time to deconstruct at the past time. And where we are nowadays. So here's not really fun page, but it's the regulation about Europe, about the waste management, and reuse. It's on the kind of the top of level of the strategy for managing the waste, and up of the recycling. And if we compare to recycling, like in 1980, it was really hard to do recycling on the building site, and we needed 30 years of previous action with institution and association and example to arrive that nowadays we have like we separate the materials on the building size, and we put the structure work on one containers and the finishing on another container. So we need 30 years to develop this industry of recycling. And if you compare to this, like reusing material is quite at the beginning of this industry. Okay, but here is even with all the effort of the recycling, here is still what look like a platform for managing the waste and the remain of a building. And if we look who is doing reusing material in nowadays, we find some people which are doing by necessity, like people who are doing some opportunity, like deconstruct a castle to build your farm was this kind of opportunity. You can find on internet like a non-official, informal way to exchange materials, but not professional way. There is some people who do reuse by revendication, and because they want to have a better construction on Earth. And more recently, the aesthetic of upcycling, as this shop of urban outfitters and ex-key who take some old barn wood for the facade of their shop. And also luxury, because of the patina of the time, they use some old materials. And you can find an antique reseller a bit everywhere in Europe, and some of them have a good taste for scenography. But if you look about the evolution of the market of reusing material, like in the middle, it was in 1988. This was the quantity of materials, and this is nowadays. And this study from an English office say in the conclusion that is because of the recycling that the amount of reused materials go less. Because before recycling it was easy we don't have the choice for the waste management to reuse some wood or blocks of stones, and because of the industry of the recycling, all this wood and this materials which goes well for the reuse goes to the recycling industry. Okay, so that was just a small part, but I wanted to tell you this story because it's where we start with the work of Rotor. So I'm sorry if my English is a bit bad because it's the first time I did it in English, but I'm sure you're gonna understand the point I want to tell. So, as I told you, we have 4 sides: the research, exhibition, design, and deconstruction. And I'm gonna show you some small story in each levels, and you're gonna understand what we are doing. So, exhibition, and here we are in Venezia, and we were a curator for the Belgian pavilion in 2010. And you know, in the Biennale of Venice, you're more used to see this kind of model, white model with not a lot of texture, and we decided on our pavilion to show the reality of building. And when you are an architect and you design a building, you look at the materials on the catalog, and you look at the material as new at their first time of life. But finally, at the first week, they're going to be the first scratch and first mark. And 99% of the life of the material is with this kind of mark. And we wanted to show it to the public. So, like this picture, when we asked the architect, can we show you this picture? He said, no, please don't show this picture because there is some mark on the wall. And like we said, we wanted to show this because this is a reality of the living of the building. Sometimes the mark can be a bit disturbing, of course. And this is a stair. And we make a display to show these elements of architecture and their mark at the best way we can do it. So here are the stairs and other elements. Here it's the carpet of an apartment. So there is the mark of the chimney and also the path. This is another story. It's in Genova, in Switzerland, and we were invited to do a workshop with students which are doing interior design, and we asked them to find a place and to deconstruct and dismantle some elements to make new furniture with it. So of course, because we were in Switzerland, they choose jewelry, and we dismantled the shop. So the students applied all their knowledge to make transformation of the materials and make new display and new furnitures. So it was like, this is kind of result. Other one do some intervention on the public spaces. But then after 1 week, after the workshop, there was still these materials on the room, and the director say, yeah, okay, it was interesting, but now you have to clean this, let's finish playing. And at this moment, I was really surprised about what the students done. And they decided to take this material and display them on the street the best way they can do it. And just observe the situation. So they were hiding on the car, and people take some elements. And the night there was few elements. And the morning, after when the collector of the trash collector came, there was one or two materials remains. And finally, the success of the workshop was more this part than the display, the furniture they did, and it was the best way to do it, to make research, to make a new circulation for this material. I'm gonna talk a bit about the research we are doing. This is Opalis. So in 2012, we did a work for the Bruxelles Environnement, the agency of environment in Brussels, and we proposed them to meet all the company active in the reuse of material in Belgium, and nobody have known them, and we have no look on this industry. So we take a perimeter of 1 hour from Brussels and finally like a lot of small companies and visit them, take pictures of what were in their shop, and so this is kind of landscape you can see when you visit them. So some of them are more disorder, and some of them like can produce some bricks on pallets ready to place. So there was windows, floors, tiles, pavement, like this, all furnitures, doors. And then we decided to make like an identity card for each of these resellers, and to show them on the map and the details of this company. So for the architect or the landlord, it is like easy to find a material or to resell a material. And all these companies are like independent companies, small company. Most of them are familiar company, maybe a bit aging population, but it was the most professional expertise on the reused material we have on our territory. And then, like 2 years after, we did this map and we make communication about this. And like in Belgium, there is 3 regions. There is Brussels capital, the Wallonie, and the Flanders. And the Flanders make an annual report for the sustainable activity of this agency. And they said, like, Flanders don't have the tradition of reused material in their culture and their territory, so we are doing some recycle and blah blah blah. And we decided, with the work we done, and we find more than 150 companies who's doing this every day, this work every day. So we find it to print our work and to send it to them. And then the year after, they change on the annual report, and they say we're happy to say that we have a lot of company and a tradition in reused materials. And after that, they order us a work for the public, like a vademecum for the extraction of our outside materials. And because of this action, this small action we did, like we do this work on the film, and we send this work to the agency of Flanders, and they realized that there was existing companies, and they wanted to do some public work for the extraction of the reused materials on site. Deconstruction. So after this works, we realized that all these companies were active in the reuse of material, but it's a lot of old elements like stones, wood, and doors, but we were asking like this kind of elements, but what happened for this kind of buildings? And we talked together and said, like, maybe we should be part of the sector of the deconstruction and to find a solution for these buildings. Because when you look at the book for the deconstruction, the offer of demolition every month, you see a lot of kind of building like that, and few buildings with traditional materials. So we make an analysis on the during of the rent in Brussels and for the office building, and when the landlord build a floor to someone, he cleaned all the floor and put everything on the trash for the new one. And sometimes, like the rent, the during of the rent is less than 3 years, like for 23%. So it was the first opportunity to do something, because it's quite new materials, like interiors buildings, that you can deconstruct, and they have like less than 3 years. So this is this kind of interior we can see on the common office building. There is some like ceilings, doors, partition wall, floors. But the thing is, when we start to be an actor of deconstruction, we had to invent or to find our equation for to be okay with the price of these materials. And a lot of the people which are doing deconstruction say like, yeah, we can reuse all the materials because it's easy to demount. But demount the material is not similar to reuse it. The definition for us for reusing materials is the cost of dismantling plus the handling multiplied by a factor of risk should be equal or less than the market value. Otherwise, you cannot sell this material. So that was the first buildings we demount. It was the headquarters of Levis in Brussels. So we did an intervention and saved some partition walls, ceilings and doors, and some other furnitures. So we collect them. We make an inventory of all the materials and diffuse to all the network of the resellers. And at the end of the building site, like almost all the materials goes to the other resellers. And for the one who don't find a resellers, we stock it at a warehouse and sell it later. And at the end of this operation, we calculate the amount of material we save in one operation. And in left, it's all the material we save during the activity of Rotor before this action, so 22 tons of material. And in 1 week, we save 30 tons of materials. So for us, it was like a really success for reusing material. Of course, it's a prototype Rotor deconstruction and still have to be evolved. And now I'm going to show you some example of design we're doing, but we can do design before knowing all these steps we've done, like finding the resellers, understanding how you can demount materials, knowing the regulation and make new papers to extract these materials. So because of all this side of Rotor, it's possible to make some design or advice. So here we are in Paris. It's the Galerie Lafayette. And they asked us to make an intervention for their new building. The foundation Galerie Lafayette has a new headquarters, and they wanted us make an intervention during 2 weeks, and for this, voilà. So it's this kind of building, and we discuss with them and say, okay, yeah, we can do like an intervention during 2 weeks, but here in Paris the price of land is really expensive, and nobody have place to stock materials and to do arts or things. So instead of doing this small scenography and intervention, we propose them to make a small renovation, interior renovation of the building, so then they can open this building all the year, and for artists and also a ressourcerie to stock materials. So it was this kind of interior, and with just a small shift like this. We are architect, but like when we are doing design, it's like that. We just come on the place and make a small shift and a small drawing, and then propose to the client. And this is this kind of interior. And here on this picture, like we see that the windows were going up on the ceiling. So we decided just to move the ceiling a bit, and then the room was totally new and clean, just enough to make a new space for exhibition and art. Here it's the old class, and we make some small intervention and cut the wall, but just keep this part to make some seat for the meeting, and just trying to clean the space with a small act. So, and then their meeting can happen. At the top level there was a former fashion model office, fashion design office, and we needed a huge table for this building. So we had a look on the ceiling, and finally it was a good one, like with this beam, and we decided to flip over, and then we had a huge table, and like it's really rare in Paris to have a place where you can have dinner for 40 people. Baumel. This is another project in Namur, close to Brussels, and the landlord decided to make a renovation, of the building, but separate the market of the renovation from the inside, the design of the interior. So because it was a renovation, they was obliged to make the installation inside. And then we applied for this market, and because of the separation of these two markets, we were free to do what we want inside with the materials. So, but the thing that we propose to the client is like, okay, we need some furniture for inside, but we don't know which one is it. Like, we're not gonna buy on the catalog the materials, but we're gonna find it in second-hand shops and stuff. So we decided to make this project plan, but without texture, and just say, okay, we need 10 chairs, 12 tables, shelf and stuff, and give them some small ambience, but with a bit of color. And at the same time, we had this this deconstruction building site in Brussels. It's the former headquarters of the BNP Paribas bank, and there was this restoration area, which is like 70s style and a bit old. And we proposed them just to demand these materials and to install it in the new project of Bonnel. So we analyze a bit the material, the furnitures, and we find the best place and to install them. Like here is the ceiling. We make some prototype for the chairs, a new counter for here. This is for the plates, and we make table with this other bar counter. So then, like the elements of inside of the project were kind of reinterpreted, and it was kind of new. We didn't see that it was a 70s interior design, and with this small shift from one building to another one and just small intervention, we were doing this kind of interior. And for the chair, the client said he wanted this chair for the audience room. But the thing is, we didn't have the money to buy like 1,000 of this chair. So we decided to look on internet each 10 years which is the most famous chair and which institution have like order a lot of this kind of chair. So there was many competitor, and finally this one, like, we saw a lot of these chairs in the market in New Zealand, because all the institutions have this in the past time, and we decided to buy all these chairs that we find on internet. So sometimes there was like six chairs for 30 euros. Sometimes it was 2 chairs for 69. But at the end, we had enough chairs and at the lowest price to make an audience room, and with the best chair you can find in the design story. This is another project, maybe the last one I'm going to talk. It's a library in Brussels, and the clients wanted like interiors, furnitures, second-hand furnitures. So it was this kind of project that is really easy to do nowadays with like the elements we have in stock or we know on the market. So the furniture goes on the project, and other elements from the headquarters of the bank, other from other buildings and old school. So like it was kind of easy project, and we decided to make just a small space intervention at this part, like a small architectural act, to have this this background for the library. So okay, all the setup. So for the background of the library, we needed to find a wallpaper, and we don't have like a reused wallpaper, so we are looking with colors, and okay, let's find this blue on catalogs. The clients was okay, but it was still missing. And the last day before ordering it, people from Rotor, one of them was working with the opera house of La Monnaie in Brussels, and visit the stock because they asked us to find a solution to manage their stock of the form of all the scenography and the display they have. And we find this painting from I don't remember the name of the play. And he said like, okay, it's a win. And we asked to the team of the opera house to help us to install it. And instead of this blue textile, we installed this display from the old opera house. And then the project have something. But I wanted to finish by these pictures because, as you can see, like in the design, or we can find some fancy stuff and find good solution because we have good guys. We can observe the materials and do the good shift. But the most important and the message I want to tell you is like the success for reused materials is if we can apply in all of the houses reused materials, this kind of interiors that there is no design, it will be a success much more than the design we're doing, because like in Brussels, all the houses have this kind of floors, and if we count all the number of houses, you can let you imagine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Victor. I would like to open the floor for questions. Or maybe just, I would like to say that with what you feel is that it's really interesting when dealing with architecture, that you present like another set of obstacle or something, like with the approach of how to gather materials, and like your closing statement, I think it was also that it's not too polished in the end, it's not overly designed, and I think there's like a soul or something very homey in all your projects, and they like really feel natural or somehow not overly, I mean there is a thought behind them, but they like it's a natural progression.
Thank
Not
you.
really like a question.
Yeah, thank you.
Observation. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
For example, because I saw your exhibition, you created exhibition on OMA in Barbican, and then looking at the presentation today, how do you approach so different projects within the office? Is everybody doing everything, or you have groups that are more focused to research and the others? What is the profile, in fact? Are you all architects or multidisciplinary?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we are all doing everything, but as you can see at the beginning, I show the numbers and the skills of each one, and because we are working together, we can find solution with the help of many skills on one project. But it's really important for us to do also to do deconstruction, to do design, to do research, and each one have to do it, because if you're not doing it, you will not understand how it works. So one day you're on the building site, like dismantling materials, and you're understanding how it's fixed on the roof and what are the problematics to extract materials, because we need quantity, quality. There is problematic of pollution on site, the access to the site. And the next day when you're doing some design, you need to understand also the materiality and of the elements to design it. And if you're doing some research, you need to have all these things in mind to make a good answer, I think.
Because also the Olga's exhibition was in a way, or my exhibition, deconstruction of an office, a myth of an office. Would you agree? Or because what was interesting, I don't know if you heard about it, that in fact you showed also everything which is behind the scenes and really the process.
But I was not at I was not working on this project at this time, but they give us the key of the office and say, okay, do whatever you want, and you have access to everything and to show what you want. So we just wanted to show the best thing to show on this work. And I can tell you a bit more about this work because I didn't work on it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Do you take part in architectural competitions? I imagine that your approach would shake the grounds of architectural competition system. If you do, what kind of experience do you have?
A lot of people every day call us to take part in competition, but it's really rare that we apply to competition, because every time we say like, okay, if you win, call us, and we can say this to everybody, because the best way to work is to work with the landlord instead of the architect, or like if you work with the landlord, you're at the origin of the competition, so you can write on the competition what you want, and if you need to extract materials or the ambition for reusing materials. But if you work if you apply to the competition or work for a designer, it's still a bit late, because you have to introduce your ideas without the ambition at the origin of the landlord. So sometimes we're doing it, but most of the time we decline the offer and just prefer to work directly with the landlord.
I have a question about if you refurbish one office or do short three projects, what would be the price if you compare it if you would buy everything new? I don't know, I know that's another philosophy behind it, but still, is it cheaper?
The first reflex is to say that reuse is cheaper, and of course it's not, because like the new industry like produce a lot of quantity of materials, and we need a lot of the same materials on the same building site to be like competitive to them. But because it's another way to practice project. Like when I showed the drawing of Namur, which was like tables and chairs without the design, we skip a lot of step in the design process and decide to make the decision on site at the end. And if you can make this open space with the landlords and he gives you this freedom, so then you can make really cheap project and good things, because of all the process, it can be a bit heavy to do like reusing materials, because you don't know, like when you want to implement materials on your project, you need the reference, you need the resellers, and you don't know if in 1 year or 2 years there's still gonna be this floor you see at these resellers. So you need to say like, okay, let's write it's this kind of new floor, and if we find the same one but in a second hand, let's take this one. And otherwise you can say like, let's not define the materiality of the floor, but there's going to be a floor, there's going to be chair, there's going to be a ceiling. And trust me, like you're going to have a nice room, but and let's make this space for the second hand to happen. So you need to change the practice, and this is the much difficult things to do.
Did you have any trouble in the beginning? Like, I guess it's quite a radical approach. I mean, it takes a lot of faith from the investor to trust you, right? To like you said, just say it's going to be a floor, we don't know what, but you trust us, we'll make it happen. Like, was it hard in the beginning to kickstart the process?
Of course, when you're starting, it's harder than after a few projects, but there's many strategies to avoid this question, and because of the clients have few money, he can accept to make this space and say, okay, let's do it in another way, and you're gonna have a good design interior, but you have to trust me. Otherwise, you can secure the market and say, let's describe the room with new materials, and if we don't find the equivalence in the second hand, you're gonna have like the room with the new materials. So there's a lot of strategy to help to implement materials on the project.
Do your clients decide upon their philosophy to reuse material, or upon the fact that maybe like 20 or 30 years old materials are better than nowadays, or on basis on what they?
Yeah, that's one part of the clients is because the evolution of the regulation. Like in France, we make a law for the transition of sustainability, and so on the public market, all the architects and the constructor, the company, so we need to use reused material on the projects, and nobody know how to do it, so they ask us to do something. Some people are really involved, like in this idea of reusing material because in an ecological way, or because of the patina of the time, and they want the story, like in their building. Some of them want makes money, and at this time it's quite hard to do money because the market is not ready, and the regulation makes everything bad for this practice. And some of them, like huge company, wanted to put on the annual report their how we call this, the responsibility for ecological and sociological activity. So they calculate the carbon of this operation. So there are many different clients, and but most of time, 99% of time, we give them cold shower and say, okay, don't do it. This is just not the good place to do it. And we are just at the beginning of reuse material, and try to do just one thing, really precise, really small, but do one thing, and don't want to do everything. And don't try to reuse your floor, but buy a second-hand floor and help a company to develop a system. Because if you want to reuse your floor, you need to face with the problem of how it is fixed. Is there so pollution things where you're gonna stock on site? So it's kind of small machine on site, and like there's a lot of problem on the building site, and this one is like another one. So yeah, at this time we give a lot of cold shower to everybody, and just be modest and do one thing. Thank you.